series where we speak to representatives from a specific program for their insights and experiences in the program itself and how it helped shape them and their career and prepare them for their career afterwards. So once again, my name is David. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a film and TV production student here at Humber and a digital content creator on the Life at Humber team. And today I'm joined by the wonderful folks from the Industrial Design degree program within the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology. And specifically, my guests include Mercedes Psenicnik, a current Humber Industrial Design student going into her fourth year, Rob Gemmell, an alumni of the Industrial Design program, and Patrick Burke, the program coordinator. And so before we go any further, maybe we'll just have each guest tell us a little bit more about themselves. So maybe your pronouns, current positions, and anything else about your experiences. So Michelle, maybe we'll start with you. Sorry, Michelle, Mercedes. I'm sorry, my apologies. Okay. I don't know,
I was like, did I get someone's name right? Okay. So hi, I'm Mercedes. I'm going into my fourth year of industrial design, which will be focused primarily on my thesis. Currently for the summer, I'm completing my internship, which is mandatory for our program to graduate. And I'm interning with the Nuit Blanche Fellowship through Humber Galleries. And through that, I'm working with multiple disciplines, and we are creating an interactive art project.
Great, yeah. So I look forward to diving in some of your experiences within this convo today. Rob?
Hi, so my name's Rob, and I'm a former grad. I always say recent grad, but I guess it's been 5 years now. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a process improvement specialist. So the majority of that job is teaching 3D software.
Awesome. And Patrick?
Yeah, well, my name is Patrick. I'm the program coordinator. I guess I've been the program coordinator for the last number of years. Basically, the position is just coordinating the efforts within the program, both from the student but also the faculty side of things.
Excellent. Yeah. So I guess for any prospective students for the Industrial Design program, I guess Patrick will probably be one of your first points of contact. But yeah, thank you all for joining me, and let's get started. So I guess Mercedes, since you're in the depths of the program currently, I guess we'll start with you. What inspired you to choose this program, and your general kind of career trajectory at this point?
Yeah. So after I finished high school, I decided to go into the trades. I wanted to be practical, but I found it a bit monotonous and bored, and I wasn't flexing any creative muscles. So then I was drawn to industrial design because it was bringing in technical skills that I was learning while also having some artistic skills. And before that, I went to Humber's Design Foundation program just to double check that I was heading in the right career before I go back to school for 4 years. And through that program let me dip my toe in, get my feet wet, and I found I really, really loved what I experienced of industrial design. So then from there, I went into the program, and it's been everything I imagined and more, where it's flexing, again, technical skills, creative skills, but then also research skills, empathetic skills, as well as your teamwork and communication skills.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a broad program. Bob, how about you? What inspired you to choose the program?
Well,
and the career?
I'll kind of piggyback off what Mercedes said. That was a great answer. Mine is pretty similar. So I grew up on a farm, so we always had lots of resources and tools, machinery, all that kind of fun stuff. So I was always kind of problem solving with little own projects here and there. And as you said too, the creative element. I was always kind of sketching, not great sketches, but sketching out my new ideas and things like that. And I just kind of always knew, probably from like early high school, that this was kind of the path I was looking into. And then, for Humber specifically, why I chose that, there were a number of reasons for that as well. So one, I actually reached out and spoke with Patrick before deciding where I was going to go. And Patrick really sold me on it, learned a whole bunch about the program, heard about how there were competitions among the different industrial design schools, and at the time Humber was doing great in those competitions, so you knew that they were really well-rounded, and it was going to be a great school to choose and great program.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, and Patrick, maybe I'd be interested to hear a bit about your experience in the industrial design field.
Well, actually, I'm not an industrial designer. I'm an engineer, and I started teaching the program, I guess, about 20 years ago, and I was teaching more of the manufacturing elements, because industrial design isn't just sort of artistic; it's also, you know, mass manufacturing, because that's the genesis is basically making products for the ordinary people, you know, not industrial. And it had its beginnings, I guess, at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution, where all of a sudden ordinary people could afford to buy things that they wouldn't normally have access to. And we've been on a roll ever since then. Maybe I could just spend just a moment just talking about the genesis of the program.
Yeah, sure.
It started with Ken Cummings, who is still on our staff, I guess about a little less than 50 years ago. And he was an industrial designer who was trained out of the Art Center, which is in Pasadena, California, which at the time and still is one of the preeminent schools in the world. And they had an opportunity to start a diploma program, which was 3 years. And the emphasis there was skills. And the program developed with that as its sort of strength. Then in about 2001, the program, still under Ken Cummings, was given the opportunity of applying for and changing it into a degree program. The interesting thing about that, though, is that the skills was still emphasized, and you can still see that in the program today. The first 2 years are a heavy emphasis on the skills, and the third and fourth years is more of an emphasis on the design thinking, the design methods, etc. And we always did industrial projects or projects with industrial or corporate partners, but the level of and the challenge of those projects just became a little bit more advanced with our adding the fourth year to the program. So that's one of the things that makes it distinctively different from other programs, and it's, I think, one of the strengths of the program is the skills being well developed in the first 2 years before the emphasis on the design, before more emphasis on the design thinking.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like a program that does really well blend kind of to the creative and the technical side, and I can see how, you know, someone and because just some random background about me is I'm in the film program, which is a very creative program right now, but I actually have a background in sciences as well. So you know, I guess you could say I have those two interests in the creative and the technical, and you know, just learning more about this program, it's almost kind of attracts me to the program almost. I guess diving into more of the program a bit, Mercedes, so what were some of your favorite parts of the program?
Kind of to jump off what Patrick was saying about how the Industrial Revolution let regular people have access to products, a big arc for me in the program was learning to differentiate crafts and more artisanal ways of thinking, which can create really beautiful objects, but they're kind of one-offs, versus learning to get things that I considered beautiful, but being able to add the technical skills and manufacturing skills to be able to ensure that they can be created and accessible to more people. And I'm very much a person that doesn't like when things are held solely for a few, and I find that process really satisfying. So that was a large arc. Also, just the connections you make with people as well, I really, really enjoy very much. I found, and I think this was a failure that a lot of people do in the beginning of the program, is they start to click up a lot, and then you're isolating yourself from different ways of thinking because everyone is so different that comes into the program. Like, as Rob just said, like he was a farmer. I find that really cool. And you're coming from a completely different place than I am, right? Where I grew up in an artistic household with paintings all over the walls. And so I found now going into finishing my third year, going to my fourth year, everyone's mixing up a bit more. And I've learned a lot more from mixing and matching and learning different skill sets. So that's been really, really fun as well.
Awesome. It's great to hear. Rob, how about you? What were some of your favorite parts of the program?
Yeah, so my favorite parts are probably going to be coming up in your fourth year, Mercedes. So the thesis project is a fantastic one. And I really enjoyed getting to work on that just because when you really get to explore your ideas, you've got professors who know exactly what they're talking about to help you along the way. And you really get kind of a year, or even more than a year if you're planning ahead, to work on that project. And it's a really amazing opportunity. What were some of the other things? So the professor knowledge was another huge thing. And especially as you get to know all the different professors as you go on. Like, and actually speaking to what you say, sorry, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but speaking of what you were saying about how even you're interested in the course, I find that every time you tell people about industrial design, everybody seems like they're at least a little bit interested, and they're like, oh, I wish I had taken that. I wish I had known about that. And to build off that, so if you were interested in cars and you heard, oh, if you went to Humber, you could be trained by people who've worked for Toyota and Ferrari and things like that, I think that would really sell people on the program. So just all the professors and their like extensive knowledge and industry experience is phenomenal. And I can't imagine kind of other programs having that kind of deep experience level. So that's another huge thing. And the internship was another one that was really valuable for me in particular, but I think everybody. And yeah, that internship was amazing. One thing I may be doing differently is I would have been trying to do that on my own in between other years of the schooling as well, to add to that experience and just network and meet different people and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like I constantly tell people on like our socials that I think networking, no matter what field you're in, is something that you can never be doing too soon or too much of. And going back to, and I think that might tie into what was brought up about I think you brought up like the thesis show that kind of happens in the fourth year, but just going through when I was going through the website, there's the thesis show that heavily involved in the program. I think we were talking earlier about the design competitions that Humber always also does well in, and then this what's called the Humber Chair Show. So it really seems like there's a great it's an opportunity to apply what you're learning into either competitive or just in general hands-on actual projects, but also I assume this is a great place to also show yourself off and network, because I assume these probably attract not just people from Humber but also people outside from Humber. Patrick, maybe you can speak to a little more about these competitions or shows.
Yeah, I think they're really good for a whole bunch of things, but not necessarily just because they're building a chair or because they're doing a particular project. One of the really important skills that people learn is how to speak to a targeted audience that may or may not be totally convinced that what you are doing is good or not. And you really do develop some really good public speaking skills and being able to handle a little bit of adversity. So within the program, one of the teaching techniques is called a critique. And you or your team will make a public presentation, usually at the end of the project, but oftentimes during the development of the project as well. And I think it's one of those things where if you know how to speak and defend your concepts and defend your ideas is a really important thing no matter what you do. And I think that's another differentiator if you like, with this particular program is that you get a lot of practice speaking publicly, but not just speaking publicly. It's a two-way conversation with your audience.
And to add to that too, I'd like to add something else that I really enjoyed about the program. So one thing that's kind of unique, I think, about this program is kind of the diversity. So you could end up in so many different careers from this. And in the program, we actually have guest speakers who will come in from the community who have been doing different jobs in that. And it's really interesting to hear kind of how diverse and the different routes people take to different positions and things like that. So that was another thing I really liked about the course.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, but yeah, like Mercedes, you're involved in, we emphasize a lot about the kind of technical side, but you're involved in, you're currently involved in, with the we launched, involved in art project. Can you maybe talk about that?
Yeah, so well, I have juggling 2 internships. One is focusing on UX and UI design, right? Where my most recent course is of interface interaction, I think it's called, Patrick, correct me. And that I found that course really, really helpful in applying my skills. We learned Adobe XD in that course, and while I'm not using that program, it gave me a really good base. So now when I'm trying different programs of a similar nature, I feel very comfortable switching in between, understanding, I guess, the base of what this type of program does. And something similar happening in my newly launched internship, where we are using a program called Blender, which I've never used before. And it's very interesting now to have multiple 3D rendering programs and understanding their strengths and weaknesses of, oh, this is how this works over here. This is how this one works over here. And being able to find ways to improve my workflow. And because there's an expectation of us to be able to be independent in our learning, which has given me the skills ready to do that now when I'm having different programs thrown at me. And I found that very helpful. And also to note on what Patrick was saying about the chair show and communication, I found the chair show a really awesome learning opportunity because we were focusing on communication, and there was 2 tiers where it was friends and family and people at the school that were just interested. And we were just talking to essentially consumers about our chair. And then there were industry experts. And then it was a different level of conversation where we were being asked about manufacturing and materials. And it was also a really good opportunity because anytime Humber brings in people outside, I know in 3rd year they brought in Spin Master, and then we also had in Canadian Tire. And it's a really, really good learning opportunity to have people that aren't our teachers, who we do develop really close relationships, but having people outside of the Humber environment then come in and critique us, I find those really large learning opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. Do either of you have any kind of like hopefully fun critique stories you could share, like any memorable, any memorable critiques or just anything from those events that you can share with us?
I know for when we were doing the Spin Master, we were all learning toys from the first time, and I hated it. It was hard. I was used to somewhat positive critiques, and now I've learned that you don't want to hear positivity all the time, and a good critique isn't necessarily like, oh, this is amazing, but when you're opening up a lot of doors for yourself. And me and my partner really had to like think outside the box, and we were researching, and we felt that everything was that at the beginning of the process, everything was being torn down. But now on the other side, we saw how we were missing the mark. And then seeing from the start of that process towards the end, just we were understanding our target demographic more, and that was helping us in our creative output. And being able to define it while still thinking outside of the box, I think really helps. So I found that critique very helpful because it was just a very emotional arc, but then on the other side, really helped me going forward and how I tackle the process now.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
With those critiques too, just kind of learning how to read between the lines too. So you might have people from the same office, even the same department, who give you completely different critiques. And when you have to kind of read between the lines at what's actually being looked for, and even from one week to another, when you might get a great critique on one week, and then the next week it might be on the other way around, and you just have to kind of learn and figure out what's actually being looked for. So those skills are super valuable as well.
Yeah, I think in many respects, you have to learn that sometimes the client isn't quite sure what they want, and part of your job is to try to draw out from them, what they feel that their values are. They don't have the answer either, and so it's a learning process for them, and that's a skill all by itself. Is just trying to sort of tease out exactly what it is that they want to communicate, or their vision, or help them getting along to that vision, because sometimes they don't know where they're going, and what the end process is going to look like.
Yeah, no, that it really sounds like there's a lot of great opportunities to learn outside the classroom, which from my personal experience, as much as and Humber does a great job of this as making classroom learning as applicable to the real world as possible. There's nothing quite like being subjected, might be a hard word, but being subjected to outside inputs or criticism. So it's good to hear that that, and it's good to hear that for you, Mercedes, that even if at the time it might not have been great, I think one of the best things that you can say about your education is after, like at the end of it, or even after like a really hard term, you can say that you learn a lot from the experience. But so kind of maybe to go on that, like, do you have any tips or kind of like, if, like either new students or current students in the lower years, or even just yourself, that one thing that you wish you knew going into the program at the start? I guess maybe if something else, we'll start with you, Mercedes.
I think you have to be open-minded in a sense. You don't want to shoot yourself into a certain way of thinking when this is an opportunity to grow and experiment, because you're in school, you don't have the direct consequences of the real world. Mm-hmm. So just take a chance, figure it out. If you mess up, you mess up. And then also that your professors are there to help you. And sometimes people can take things really, really personally, but I think when you take a step back, everything's just meant to help you grow, and it's not about this specific piece that you are working on or presenting. It's more to help you learn productive habits that you can apply again to future work, and have kind of already you're like a waddling toddler, and then your professors are giving you training wheels, and then eventually you can, just ride a bike. And that's what all of the critiques are. So I think don't take things personally, get a thick skin, and also just going off more things of critiques of reading between the lines. Sometimes people will take things very literally in critiques, and that's not necessarily what you want to do. I try to just get like the common themes that are showing up within a critique. So if they're saying like, oh, make it more fun or make it louder, and then they'll give an example idea. You don't need to do that example idea, but just use an aesthetic and a formal language that gives a more fresh and vibrant aesthetic.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Especially, I feel like when there's a creative aspect involved, and you have people put either maybe a bit or maybe even a lot of their self into a project. It can be very easy to take things personally, even though that might not always be the intent of a person giving criticism. Bob, anything to add?
Yeah, so I like all of those answers. I would add or build off and say, I'd say if it could only be one thing, I would say try to work in class. I know that's difficult to say right now, but working in class, just because when you'll get to know your peers, how they work, the different skill sets. Like so many times throughout my time there, we would have people who weren't necessarily the strongest sketcher, but then they would spend time with other people who were really strong sketchers, and then after even a year, even just a few months, that person might become one of the best sketchers in the class. So just being around those people and kind of absorbing the other skills, not only from year as well. I would also say spend time working in that area and talk to the other years too. So if people are working on their thesis project, maybe if it's not crunch time, you can ask them questions and talk about that, just to learn more about that, and the internships, how it is to write your resume and to apply, and the process and all that kind of stuff. The more information you can get earlier on, the better it's going to be. And just kind of asking questions. So a few of the things I mentioned, like how the professors are so knowledgeable, and to learn more about the internship, just asking questions about everything is going to help you out a lot. So just be involved and ask questions.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I want to
sorry.
jump up. Oh, sorry, no. Your classmates as a resource is a good point, because they're really the only people that understand what you're going through right now. I'm lucky to have like family and friends that are a very good support network, but you always have to explain like, oh, well, there's this program or there's this. But when you want to complain about SolidWorks and how like you're getting frustrated, you have peers around you that are very helpful. And I found really that everyone is so willing to help whenever I need any sort of help or questions, and that, yeah, it's a really good resource, and just reach out to your classmates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a school is always a good resource to utilize. Patrick, anything to add on to that? Like, what are some common like concerns that students bring to you, or that you've observed that they deal with?
Well, actually, I'm going to change the answer at the question and say, well, you know, sure. What directions are there available for them to go in? Traditionally, industrial design was sort of designing how well a consumer product works with a client. But we've traditionally had two options that started in year 3, where the students could sort of choose to have a slight emphasis on the styling of a particular product. And our theme that we choose is automotive design, or actually transportation design. And the other one is sort of product design, which basically is all the other products other than transportation. And this past year, we started a new sort of theme of courses that goes through year 3 and year 4, called interaction design. And what we were trying to do is we recognize that there's so much digital coming into the world these days, and that they're being married with tangible products. So you have smart devices. And that's going to cascade down from the ubiquitous sort of laptop and iPhone to ordinary sort of everyday consumer items, because the price is dropping and the software support is going up. And the thing that I like about that is that our students are really becoming aware that this is a really flexible and dynamic profession that's going to be moving really fast. So it's not static at all. And I think that there, you know, some of our cohorts that are going through right now are recognizing that, and they just see that there's not too many problems that they can't sort of figure out based upon the kind type of courses that and the background that they're giving, that the program offers. And one final note is that what Mercedes said is absolutely true about how much support that you get, and how much you get out of a program is basically defined by the cohort that you're working with. It's really vitally important because you're playing off a whole bunch of different ideas, concepts, interpersonal relationships, how you actually manage to move collectively towards a sort of a common theme. It's not sort of my way or the highway kind of an attitude when you're working in a group of interdisciplinary people, and that's what I think we're moving in that direction. And I can see a fundamental shift in the way that the students start thinking about how their schooling is helping them. It's not just sort of a one-way stream. It's sort of what can I do with the tools that I have.
You sparked another thought, one that I'd like to add in, another thing that people could do, and that's you get what you put in. So to go back to how diverse the course is coming, you may think that, oh, you're not interested in that particular subject, but with how complex and how integrated everything is, that may come back in your career. And I've got actually a specific example with one of your courses, Patrick. Speaking of the manufacturing, I remember taking that course and thinking, I don't need to know about how injection molded parts are made. But I stuck it out and I listened, I paid attention, I did that. And I'm actually teaching right now plastic injection molding for SolidWorks. So a bit of that knowledge is actually helping out. So don't take things for granted. Everything's there for a reason. Put as much effort as you can, even if you don't think it's important at the time.
Yeah, no, it's great advice, especially because you don't want to close your door and the doors on yourself, right? Especially once you get into things like internships or the work placements, right? And I would actually, and I'm sure some the people watching would love to hear about where like the internships that you've done or are doing or where they could lead you. So I guess, Rob, where like what internships did you do either while you're at, I guess start with while you're at Humber, and maybe a bit of the process of going through that was like was looking for internships kind of incorporated into the program?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So we were helped quite a bit along the way to get our internships, and I feel like I really lucked out with mine, and I got an internship with Autodesk, and Autodesk is an incredible company. And yes, like when I just need to brag about Autodesk for a second. So a few of the smaller companies that they would acquire, when they would actually have the founder on site. So you'd ask a question about a new program and they'd say, well, why don't you go talk to the person who created it? They're on the 3rd floor. And you could walk down and actually meet and interact with that person, which was just incredible. And that kind of led me, well, it continued leading me along the way of CAD. So that's pretty much what I'm teaching right now, and I'm assessing in my job. So it really helped and made a big difference in my career. It is a bit of the competition, but that still helps. That's still really valuable knowledge. So yeah, the internships were great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Faith, how about you?
Yeah, I feel we were giving a lot of support in finding our internships. We were all nervous because of the pandemic, and we were worried about what opportunities would be there for us. But we had a first semester, we had a portfolio course that was critiques. We could refine our portfolios and give them the skills to assess our own portfolios as we move forward. Then we had a work prep course that would help us find internships, and we're given markers of where we should be along our finding our internship journey. And I feel like I'm very much enjoying my internships now. I'm really happy. It's really engaging, and I'm hearing positive stuff from other students. And yeah, as nervous as people were, everyone's found one, and we were given a lot of support to reach out, find places. And like with COVID, just as again, we were all being worried, knowing that there was flexibility surrounding us, and we were given a lot of resources to ask for help.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear. And Patrick, I guess you talked about how you recently added a new kind of third specialization. How do you tend to keep the program relevant? Like how did you conclude that a third specialization was a good thing to have into the program?
That's a good question, and the path of introducing interaction design was done. I guess a lot of it was based upon communications with other people that are working in the field, as well as both industrial design as well as interaction design, and then just being familiar with just generally how the fields are going, and so I think that it's the same old sort of a thing. You do have to, whether you're a faculty or a program or you're a student, you're always having to sort of just try to keep those networking feelers out, just to see, how things are spinning out in the real world, where the jobs are, where the money is, because that's where the jobs will follow. And you sort of get a sense or a smell for where the industry is going. So that's what led to that. And I think it all boils down to the fact that we had a couple of faculty members that were particularly well connected and knew some key people in those other areas as well. So as far as the next big thing, it may be you just have when it comes, you just have to be aware and chatting with people and communicating to see how things are going. Then the challenge is going to be not what you want to do, but what you decide not to do, so that you can do these new things. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like we previously discussed, that connections. Yeah. Well, it was also great to have to have available to students as well, to kind of kind of boost the educational value of the program. That's probably not the best way to phrase it, but yeah, it's good to know that those connections exist in the program.
If I could just jump in here, we just went through a program review, which we do, I guess, every 5 to 7 years, and we've got other people that are from other universities that come in this last little while. It was 2 people from well-respected industrial design universities, and when we introduced the concept of bringing on the stream of interaction design, both of them are saying, that's really great. We're thinking of doing the same thing. So I think that they were at the stage where they were aware that there's things that are moving, but they hadn't got to the point where they were going to sort of jump. And so, but we'd made that decision a little bit earlier, and had a little bit of a plan of how to sort of develop it. And it's going to, the first 3 years of rolling it out, of course, there'll be some tweaks along the ways, but it's just, it's a validation that we were heading in the right direction, and also a validation that we were able to have the flexibility to move more quickly than some of these other institutions.
Oh, yeah, it's good to hear that the review and the dialogue is constantly going on. So I had I guess a person on Instagram ask, and I think we addressed we just at various points and thing, but like they asked like kind of what kind of like careers can get into, like, and are many graduates successful after graduating? So I guess we have a graduate here. So Rob, do you feel successful after graduating?
I do. So I had a weird path to my success. So right out of school, I went and I did some industrial design, where I was designing the displays that you'd see in kind of a Shoppers Drug Mart or Walmart and things like that. From there, I moved on and I worked as a design engineer for a manufacturing plant, where I got to do essentially the research and development from beginning to end, with the little components that you'd see in the foaming alcohol sanitizers and things like that. So that was really fun. And then my whole career, I've been I've been told I would make a good teacher, but I always shied away with that because I've got a speech impediment. And all of these things kind of led me down to actually taking on a role. So now I'm working for a private company, Javelin, and we teach SolidWorks. So I'm able to kind of blend my two ideal worlds, and I couldn't be happier with that. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I feel extremely successful. When I know I've got friends who wake up and they say, "Oh, I have to go to work again," and I don't really have those days. So I think that counts for a lot.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And how about you, Mercedes? I know you're going into your 4th year. Have you narrowed down like a focus or a career path, or are you still very open to kind of what? with you will bring.
One thing that I've gone from this program is there's just so much, that it's a bit overwhelming. I know some recent graduates, like some people go down their own path where they start companies or have, I know some graduates have had a successful Kickstarter. I'm close friends with one of my internships is doing the one where they're creating their own company and app. And so there's a lot of skills, where we have skills that can work with websites or app or interface design. And that is huge right now in terms of creating something, or you can go into products or go back like to the technical side of manufacturing, engineering, how things are made. And it's almost overwhelming. But from all of that, I feel very comfortable knowing that I have skills where I can bounce in between, because right now with my New Launch Fellowship, I'm finding that game design is really cool. And that's something that I would have never thought about, but it's combining from the 3D rendering to the ideation process we're taught to the user interface. We're thinking, how do we teach a player that they know to go with X or Y and what to press? And that's all things that I've learned within this program. So while I'm still trying to decide what I want to do, I feel very confident that I will, because we're just given so much to play with.
Yep.
Yeah. And anything to add to that, Patrick?
Yeah. I sort of keep track of where our graduates are. 9 months out after graduating, and in the past they've had very good placement rates, like between 80 and 90% would be working in the field of industrial design or something really close related to the design field, which is a really high placement rate. It's not as if they're working for in the service, and there's nothing wrong with the service industry, but they're not sort of taking on positions that are unrelated to what they were doing. This past year, 2020, with the COVID, things were a little bit slower for these guys, and the main reason is that we've got. I think it all comes down to the skill sets that the students have. They can do a lot of different things, and most of the employers are small to medium-sized businesses, and they can't afford to hire 3 people to do one job. They need people that have that flexibility, that can do more than one thing. And I think that's the core to getting your foot in the door. And then from there, I think it depends upon other opportunities that present themselves. I think you have to sort of, you can't be sort of jumping too fast, but I think earlier in your career, you have to be looking, proactively for opportunities to widen that base that you have. So you have to sort of think of your education as being both formative and in an institutional sense for the first 4 years, and then for the next 6 years, there's going to be another part of that education that's based upon just working for 2 or 3 different companies. And then I think you've got that base that you can go in a lot of different directions and do well. So as I've said before, the biggest challenge is to get your foot in the door. These smaller companies don't have time to train people. They need you to be up to speed on a lot of these skills, and that's where I think our students have done very well, and that's part of the reason why in the past they've had a very high percentage that have been working in the field.
Yeah. I think going back to what Rob said earlier, and probably paraphrasing here, but just like the mentality of taking kind of what you do in a classroom, but almost kind of treating that as if it was kind of like a real kind of job, so to speak, so that you come out with, even if it's just a school assignment, you should always kind of be proud to show it off to future employer that you already know this, even if it's just a school assignment, where some people might just take it, oh, it's a school assignment, just gotta do it to pass and get that mark, right? So yeah, I think having the mindset throughout your education is probably a good mindset to have.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone watching has any questions, feel free to put that in chat. But otherwise, maybe we'll start kind of wrapping things up. If people want to learn more about the industrial design program? Where can people learn more? Patrick?
They can just, well, first of all, go to the website, Industrial Design at Humber, and then you'll find my email address, and you can sort of email me anytime. So my email address is patrick.burke, that's B-U-R-K-E, at humber.ca. So that's patrick.burke at humber.ca. And if you've got any questions at all about the area or the process of just getting into the program.
Yeah, and I think if maybe people are interested in connecting with like either current students or alumni, they can reach out to you as well for that.
That certainly is not a problem.
Awesome. All right.
Also, sorry. I think a good resource online is that Humber has a catalog of this year's thesis show and last year's thesis show, if people are interested to see where the graduates kind of end up with their stuff. And it's a combination of all the skills that everyone's learned. So I think that would be a really good resource for people that are interested.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sure, yeah. We'll be sure to put that in the description of the recording. Yeah. So that doesn't seem like we have any questions. So yeah. So if there's is there anything and any of you would like to add, or anything we didn't address or get to this in this past hour?
I may add one thing, actually, just again to build off of just getting involved, not even necessarily just with your program. So when I went to Humber, I got involved with a lot of different things. So I was a resident assistant, and I'll go through these like a bit each, just because they really helped me get to where I am today. So as a resident assistant, when you just learn how to like work with everybody, network, all that kind of thing. Then I went and I worked as a co-chair of orientation. And that was a really cool job because, again, I've got a speech impediment. So I was really uncomfortable speaking to groups, and especially doing speeches or anything like that. And through that job, I had to speak to groups, and I even had to do an introduction to like 500 people, which was way out of my comfort zone, but that really helped a lot. And when kind of from that point on, speeches became a lot easier in class and everything like that. And then even helping out with school. So I was a teacher assistant also for SolidWorks. And again, that just kind of opened my eyes to teaching the technical skills and things like that. So just like reaching out and just being involved in the community and everything kind of around school it will help one way or another down the line.
No, yeah, that's definitely a great point to add, and that's something we definitely advocate here on the Life at Humber.
To expand on that, I was a student worker at Humber where I worked in the rapid prototyping lab, and that really helped me create connections outside of the direct vicinity of the program, also see other programs. And the rapid prototyping lab involved me managing a laser cutter, which was really helpful in just being able to see how it works. And then now when I have my workflow, I understand, oh, this can be done really quickly with this machine that's available to me. It gave me exposure to the 3D printing machines, as well as the photo studio. And then it's also connected to one of the workshops, and then I would be giving safety presentations or assisting in safety presentations and assisting in workshop supervision. And that really helped me. And through working there, Humber reached out to me and other student workers to create trophies for the thesis show. And through that, I was now, instead of just finding supplies that were just for me, I was making orders for large things and contacting suppliers. And Tony, who manages the industrial workshop, the industrial programs workshop, really helped me in helping with those knowledge gaps where I was having problems. So that was a really big opportunity. So yeah, to expand what Rob was saying, just see what's available. Again, everyone's always so willing to help, and there are a lot of resources out there if you look for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. Because yeah, like definitely like learning doesn't have to be just in the classroom or even just program related, right? Like I think we're going away from calling them soft skills, and I think the term is now like professional skills. But yeah, things like public speaking and teamwork and organization. Those are all the things that can be learned in all the different ways all the different opportunities students have to get involved at Humber. So yeah, definitely, definitely take some time, look at what's available, and get involved. It's great advice. So yeah, so I just want to say thank you again to Rob, to Mercedes, and Patrick for joining me today, for being such a wonderful guest and sharing their experiences. And I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope this was super informative and enjoyable. And thanks for tuning in. It's always appreciated. And if you're watching the recording, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if there's a program that you would like to see us do a deep dive of, let us know as well. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon, and have a good one.
That's great. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.